Welcome to the 0g-SPOT podcast.
You finally found it. The 0g-SPOT.
We're so glad you came.
Winner. That's huge.
All right, wrap it up. We're done for the day.
Right?
That's it. Cool.
Hey, I'm Alicia.
Hey, I'm Eric.
Some may call me an expert in sex.
Some may call me an expert in space.
And this is the 0g-SPOT podcast.
Strap in, let's go. Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. If you're listening to this, I just want you to know this is just for fun. We're idiots just having a good time talking about sex and space. This is not for education. This is not for anything serious. It's just for a good time. So stick around, hang out, have fun, tell your friends about it, and let's get the show rolling.
Hey, Eric.
Hey, Alicia, how's it going?
Oh, it's going good. How about you?
Excellent. You know, another fun-filled day. The sun is out. I'm hanging out with you, and we are introducing the world to 0g-SPOT. So why don't you jump in and tell me a little bit about who you are and why you're here?
Oh, okay. Well, my name is Alicia Topolnicki, and I am an intimacy coordinator for film and TV. And what that means is I'm a choreographer for scenes that involve nudity, sex, and intimacy of any degree. And I'm also a mediator between the cast and the crew on a film or TV set to help everyone navigate consent and boundaries.
Awesome.
What about you? Who are you?
I don't know. Just kidding. So, hey guys, I'm Eric, and I am a huge space nerd. I've worked in the space industry my entire career, everything from an engineer for startups all the way to being a regulator for the government and some stuff in between. I have a disability and I use a wheelchair in my day-to-day life. So one of the things I'm working on is how to make space flight accessible to people with disabilities. So that frames a lot of what I do these days, and I'm excited to be here because I think there is a interest we share in common, right? It's the joy of being human, the excitement of exploration, and how we can get to that next frontier as a society.
Oh, 100%. Can I just say, I am obsessed with space. I know that I am supposed to be the sexpert, but I love space too. I mean, I am a huge Trekkie. Growing up, I watched all of the Next Generation, Voyager, and Deep Space Nine, as well as, of course, the original series of Star Trek. And I have been to conventions. I went to space camp. I know, I was pretty
Wow.
cool.
That's a lot of street cred. I didn't go to space camp.
Well, I think maybe somebody should hire, like NASA should hire me and they should kick you to the curb.
I deserve it. You know, I've been in the space industry a while and I've really got nothing to show for it. So might as well bring new blood in and kind of bring some excitement to it. Because space
Yeah.
has always been such a clinical and serious environment. Everything is about engineering and getting the work done and all that stuff. And we're getting to a place where space is being more accessible to the everyday person. And that means it's going to be more accessible to everyday experiences. And I think that's what drives a lot of what we're trying to do here with 0g-SPOT. Microgravity is not necessarily a forgiving environment, and it's very different than living on the 1g of Earth gravity that we exist in every day. So the logistics, the way we go about it, the things we can do with it, involving sex and in space, is going to be wildly different. And I think there's going to be a lot of things to learn and perfect, and a lot of um, research to be done, for lack of better terms, on how to make that happen.
Because people are going to be taking pleasure cruises to space. Like
Oh,
we
for
we
sure.
know this is going to happen.
It's almost happening now. So people are already taking suborbital space flights with companies like Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic that are a few minutes long, but those are happening now. And there have been a few private astronaut missions that have been orbital through companies like SpaceX or through the Russian Soyuz, going to the International Space Station that have already happened. I think there was a Russian film crew that went up to the International Space Station a few years ago to film a movie. I'm not sure
Wow.
if it was good or how it did, but that could very easily be an OnlyFans creator a few years from now, right? With the money they're raking in, that will probably be a thing.
Right, right. An OnlyFans creator or somebody who is just exorbitantly, exceedingly rich and wants to go up with their partner and join the 300-mile high club.
Yes, that is true. And at very least, it's got to be at least the 62-mile high club because here's your, space fact of the day. Although some would debate it. The line of what we consider space is 62 miles above where we are right now. So 100 kilometers is the barrier of space. So if you think about it, space is probably closer than the last place you went on vacation to.
Oh my God. I mean, yeah, that's crazy to me because 62 miles away, you're saying 62 miles straight up, and I'm technically in space.
Yes, Katy Perry did it.
Wow. Um, I am impressed. I am awed. I feel like I can get on the freaking space elevator and be the next one up there. I am ready to go. Somebody
Same.
tap me in, coach. Like,
Yeah, for season 2, we're looking for sponsors to send us to space for no other
yeah,
reason.
we're going to record this
Yes,
from space.
next episode will be 11 minutes long, but it'll be in space. That's the goal, or something. Uh, so let's take it back a step. Let's go back to the 0g-SPOT, the name itself, and
Yeah.
let's talk about it. So for me, it's kind of an amalgamation, a combination of two things. So on my end, it's 0g, which stands for zero gravity or microgravity, and that's what astronauts experience in space. It's really just falling at the same rate of gravity. And in space, when you're orbiting the Earth, you're really just falling in a circle constantly, and that's what creates microgravity. And so, why don't you explain the other part of it?
Okay, well, the G spot, the mythical structure internally in somebody who has a uterus and ovaries and vagina. So, yeah, it is a spot, a structure that historically there have been poems and songs and stories written about how this particular structure causes someone to experience acute pleasure. And there have been lots of scientific inquiries into whether it is a actual localized spot or whether it is more of a region within the human body. But regardless of what you believe, based on the current science, we know that G spot is something that stands for pleasure, that stands for enjoyment and uh, joy, even. So that is what we're trying to bring in with this this melding, this mind meld, if you would, of zero gravity, 0g, and the G spot.
So
Pleasure,
we are
joy,
bringing joy
space.
to space. That's what we're
Yeah.
doing here. Yeah, like you said before, we are bedazzling space. We're gonna have fun with it, and it's really just about the fun we can have, right? Like, yes, a lot of this will be sex, and we're gonna cover the logistics of it. Don't worry, but it's also about just enjoying space, like making it not an engineering environment. You don't have to have the right stuff. It doesn't have to be this scientific endeavor. It's going to be a human endeavor, right? And we're going to make it fun. We got to make it enjoyable. So we know a lot of experts who are not us
Right,
in
right,
both
because we are
sex.
not experts.
I've been mistaken for an expert once, and that'll never happen again. We can talk about that later. But um, you know, there's a lot to figure out. There's a lot we don't know. There's a lot people don't know. And so we're going to go find those people to help us figure it out one step at a time, be it um, how your body works in space, be it like how you would even have sex in general in space, and then like getting creative with it. I don't know.
Yeah, like we could talk about kink in space. We could talk about non-heteronormative penis and vagina sex that is definitely going to happen in space someday soon, I hope. Sex that's not just for reproduction, so not just studying the reproductive side, but sex that happens purely for pleasure that cannot result in reproduction. And we can talk about communication and consent and privacy. Like, does privacy even exist in space on a space shuttle or a space station? That's one of my big questions.
The short answer is no, but they will have to at some point, especially with crew members, let's say, who aren't sleeping in their own bunks every night.
Right.
And that's going to be a thing. And, even things like cleanliness and how to physically operate in space, like it's wildly different. Like action and reaction. You push something one way, the other thing goes the opposite way, and that is not conducive to keeping two people together or more people. And
Right.
it's in a completely new environment.
Right. And I think that's one of the really thrilling parts about this conversation is that space, in some ways, has been historically dominated by a certain type of person, right? It started with we only had male astronauts. And like
Fighter
most,
pilots.
yeah, like most scientific endeavors, women were blocked and pushed out and or their labor was used but never celebrated. And now we're coming to an era where space can be for anyone and everyone. And in this era, space can be the great equalizer. Like, imagine somebody who has a physical disability and is experiencing weightlessness in space. And imagine the pleasure that they could derive from having sex in a way where maybe gravity is not fighting against them and their body is not fighting against them.
Absolutely. You took the words out of my mouth. As a person with a disability, so I was born with my disability. I have Freeman-Sheldon syndrome and I've used a wheelchair my entire life. Um, I do see space as a, leveling of a playing field, right? Like there's no steps in space. There are no access restrictions that are built into the environments of space. So we have the ability to design them for the future of humanity for people of every kind of ability. And sex wise, absolutely. Like gravity does not always make things easy, and having none of it might change that. It probably will change it. I've done microgravity research experiments on a parabolic airplane. So we go up and down, and on the down parts of the parabola, you get about 20 to 25 seconds of weightlessness. And I've done 2 of those flights. So I have somewhere around
Whoa.
7 minutes of cumulative microgravity time. And I can tell you, it is amazing the difference in ability and just movement you have in microgravity when I can't stand on Earth. And even another thing, just looking at things like lunar gravity, which is 1/6 of Earth's gravity, I have the ability to stand in lunar gravity, and I don't on Earth gravity. So looking at space, it's not always about 0G, although that is the name of the show. Welcome to the 0G spot. But it's about the different environments it opens up and the capabilities and possibilities of the people who go there. And
Right.
when you're looking at millions or billions of people in space, so many opportunities get unlocked.
Yeah, and something else I want to touch on is this idea of a sexual script, which is a script that people have learned from either their family of origin, their religious background, their medical environment, what doctors and professionals in that field are saying is the right way to experience sexuality. And also, we get the sexual scripts from our media. I mean, as an intimacy coordinator for film and TV, I know very, very well how crucial it is to tell stories that are varied, that are realistic, that are reflective of real people. Because if I don't do that and I don't work towards that goal, then the media, which is a very powerful tool, teaching tool for young people, then the media will only reflect one type of human sexuality. And so we follow these scripts, whether we know it or not, these scripts from the media, from the medical world, from religion and family of origin. It tells us usually that sex is supposed to be sequential. It's supposed to follow the bases. If you've heard about running the bases, then you know a sexual script, right? It's like, okay, we're going to start at the top of the body, maybe, and we're going to kiss on the lips, and then kiss the breasts, and then kiss the stomach, and then kiss the genitals. And that's the order. That's the right way to have sex. But when you put yourself in an environment like space, where everything is new, everything is upside down and inside out, and you're literally floating, I mean, I feel like those scripts are going to go out the window.
Hopefully not literally, because there's no air out there.
Right. Very good point. Not out the window, but let's say out the airlock.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Is that
We at least
better?
got this. We've got, a barrier between. We're good. We're good.
We're good.
Safety
Everybody's,
first.
yeah. Woo. That was a near miss. We almost killed the project before it got off the ground.
Yes. Premature abort. Um, we can crop that out. Don't worry. So the script isn't written yet, and not saying we're going to be the ones to write it, but I definitely want to talk to all the people who are going to write the script, who are the ones that are going to be at the precipice of this next thing that we're going to do, right? I mean, I want to talk to the people researching sex in space. I want to talk to the people who are experts in various kinks or things that might be useful for sex in space. And I think we can kind of figure it out, because I don't know about you, but like I just want to explore. I want to know more, and I really want to talk to these people about what is the one thing you would do in space if you could, right? Like, how would you enjoy space? So, Alicia, I'll throw it to you. Like, if you could go to space, what is the one thing you would do?
I mean, but you know what my answer is.
Well, it's a loaded question for this podcast, but give the people what they want.
Yeah, I would want to have sex in space. Like I would want to do that, and I would want to like be able to explore, and maybe my backup answer is paint. I want to paint in space and write poetry and capture the majesty of space in an artistic, some sort of art form.
For sure. I mean, it's just like the movie Contact, or book Contact, by Carl Sagan, where the main character is like, they should have sent a poet, because space is just that remarkable. And to me, like, okay, so sex is definitely on the top two for me.
Okay.
However, just seeing the Earth from space, I think is just something that I really want to do. So we'll call that the foreplay of the trip. But being able to see whole continents with no borders, right, and being able to
Hmm.
see the storm on one side of the planet, nightfall on the other, and everything in between, I think would be an amazing experience. Of course, followed by whatever else happens.
To just mention here that Contact is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
So this is another inspiration as to why I am on this podcast, because I was so inspired by Jodie Foster's character, like just badass woman in STEM, kicking butts, taking names, and going to space, which is the dream.
Absolutely. And I think that her character was based off a real person named Jill Tarter, who was the head of the SETI Institute for a while, which was a search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Um, and so we can double check that. We'll have our producer double check that. But, maybe we can get her on the show, or maybe Jodie Foster. Who knows?
Oh,
We'll see how big we
ah,
get.
I would freak out.
Good. That's what we want. We want that kind of expectation from everyone on the show, even the listeners. We want everybody to be freaking out about how awesome this is. Because
Yes.
my secret here is I want to get everyone interested in space and talking about space.
Ooh, your secret mission, your master manipulation of the
Well, yeah.
masses?
I mean, I figure everybody likes sex, right? So the best way to get them to talk about space is just merge the two.
This is very sneaky of you. I see we're all just falling into your trap, Eric.
Yes, yes. I actually laid this trap years ago, and nobody has found it till now. So it's really kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Um, we'll see if it works.
Well, speaking of years ago, this is the thing that I want to kind of unpack is you said that we've been doing space travel for 60 or 70 years, is that right?
Yeah, I don't have the number in front of me, but I maybe our producer can do it. But I think the first person in space um, was it's Yuri Gagarin in what 1964? Hold on, I'm gonna have our
I
POV.
Fact
am
check.
looking as we type.
When did Yuri Gagarin
So
go to space?
April
It was
12th,
April 12th,
1961. He
61. I
completed
was
one
off.
orbit of
So
Earth aboard Vostok 1. By the way, you were also correct about Jill Tarter, a SETI astronomer who Jodie Foster's character was loosely based on, not a direct portrayal of.
loosely based on. Yeah, they didn't have an alien transporter to go to different planets, so that's loosely based. But Yuri Gagarin, April 12th, 1961, was the first person in space. Every year there's a holiday celebrated by some called Yuri's Night. Check it out. Um,
Whoa.
so, 1961, that was, I can't do math now, 64 years ago.
64 years
So,
ago.
yeah, humans have been in space doing space things for 64 years. And to my knowledge, per the record books, no one's had sex in space.
Yeah. Yeah, what's up with that? I feel like it would have happened in 64 years. But okay, here's something that I've heard and that might dispel the myth that sex has never occurred in space.
Ooh, do
Because
tell.
I count masturbation as sex, right? That's a sex act. You can have sex with yourself just as much as you can have sex with another person. And I heard a rumor that, you know how there are like the way that people pee in space is there's a tube, like a vacuum tube that they
Okay.
walk up to and they pee into, and the pee gets sucked out into the vacuum of space. Am I just making that up, or is that true?
Yeah, it's pretty close. There's a vacuum tube. They float over to it. They don't really walk over there,
Okay,
and then
right.
they pee into it. I think it goes into a collector for recycling. But you're pretty spot on.
Okay, so there's a tube. And I heard that on one mission, somebody actually masturbated and came into this tube, like ejaculated semen into the tube. And because it was not set up to filter semen, it was only set up to filter urine, it actually broke the entire apparatus. And that was a major problem because it's not like when you're in space, you can just send over the mechanic.
Yeah, not very many plumbers in orbit.
No, no, not yet. So that, if that rumor is true, that means that some sort of sexual activity has already happened in space. What are the chances that no one in 64 years has ever masturbated?
I I'm gonna say low. Um, we've had continuous human presence in space, I think for at least the last 20 years on the International Space Station, with the longest mission, I believe, being uh, just about a year. And so statistically, you're probably right.
Right. If you're up there for a year, you're never going to touch your own genitals.
I think the issue we run into is that space has always been such an engineering and mission focused place, right? With the right stuff, the Apollo era, those were all fighter pilots. They were trying to beat the Soviets. Going through the shuttle era and the International Space Station where we are now, that is a scientific lab where there's research, and you are there to do your job. And NASA is a very conservative organization from that standpoint, and they don't really acknowledge anything outside of the mission that needs to be done. The astronauts are perfect physical specimens, and they're there to do a job and nothing more. Part of that job is public outreach, but that's not, that's part of the job. Anything, you know recreational, let's say, is not something we're going to talk about.
But that's crazy to me because those people are then expected to be on the job 24/7. I mean, when you are on a space mission, you are not clocking in and out. You have 24/7 responsibilities, and you are sleeping at your work site with no escape. So to fail to talk about human needs, whether they be biological or pleasure-seeking and joy-seeking needs, to fail to cover those in our wider discussion of what space travel is and means and could be is just a failure in general, I think.
I mean, I would tend to agree with you. I think, up until now, it has been that engineering environment. And as we see more and more people go to space who are everyday people, that's got to change. People aren't going to want to go to space if where they're going is a laboratory or an engineering environment. People want the creature comforts of home. They want comfortable furniture, and they want good food and drinks, and places to relax and recreate and do things with each other. And I think there's going to be a lot of things that change in the future to accommodate that. Space hotels and commercial space stations are on the horizon. I don't know if it'll be the next 10 years or whatever, but it's going to be a different environment. It has to be a different environment.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting to cover furniture in one of our upcoming episodes of incorporating the way that furniture can be designed to actually accommodate sex, and then also just furniture in general. Like, would there be a bed in space? Is that ever possible? Would you have a vertical bed?
It's more like a sleeping bag, but yeah.
Okay.
And there are organizations out there um, working on the interior design of space stations and spacecraft. There's several companies working on space stations. There are companies and organizations working on humanizing those stations with those creature comforts. You know, one that comes to mind is the Aurelia Institute, and there are other organizations studying reproduction in space. One that comes to mind is the acronym's called ASRI, ASRI, and I know that they're doing research related to reproduction in space. So like there are people looking at various aspects of it, but I'm not sure how many of those things are getting integrated with each other and just integrated with the human experience too. I think that's something that at least I keep coming back to. It's just, you know, getting out of the lab and into the playground.
Yeah, and bringing that into the wider conversation, like bringing that into the public consciousness so that these aren't just shame-filled whispers that people in NASA meetings have to have because they aren't encouraged or even allowed to bring these things up, right? Like there's that famous and potentially debunked anecdote about the tampons. Do you remember this?
Yes, I'm familiar, but why don't you enlighten the audience?
No, I think I don't have it completely memorized, but there was was it Sally Ride?
I think it was Sally Ride.
The first female astronaut.
First American female astronaut, yeah.
First American female astronaut, right. And NASA didn't know how many tampons to send her with for a how many?
I think it was like a week or two long trip.
A week or two long mission. They didn't know how many tampons to send her with, and so they sent like 100.
Yeah, it was a few hundred at least. Yeah.
I think that this anecdote has maybe been debunked, but it just goes to show that these conversations have been shrouded in so much shame and people have been laughing at some of the bastions of space exploration because they can't seem to openly and honestly discuss the way that human bodies work, especially female bodies, and the way that human sexuality is a part of our bodies.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, this is going to sound weird, but I think the way we can get the general public, the people listening to this, whoever, to be interested in space and take it more seriously is to have more fun with it, to make it a more relatable experience and to make it somewhere that feels more like home and feels like something you'd actually want to go to that isn't just some like sci-fi dystopian reality.
And I think the way that we do that is each episode from here on out, we bring in one of those experts you mentioned, whether it be a kinkster or a space expert who is already researching reproduction in space, or one of those furniture designers, or somebody in the sci-fi world who can speak to the stories that inspire people and the tales and archetypes about sex in space that already exist in our media, right? Like we can bring some of these experts in to this show and have them be part of the conversation.
Exactly. I think the more people we can bring in to have fun with the subject, I think the better we'll be. And the more knowledge we can bring together, I think it's going to invite a lot of really fun conversations. I want to learn as much as possible. And, you know, I want to get to a place where human travel in space, doing human things like having sex, is normalized and is, you know, commonplace. The point of time where we get to a place where a conversation about sex in space is boring, we'll know that we've made it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're so right. That is such a great goal, right? Where it doesn't have to be this titillating, scandalizing, you know, conversation that makes scientists clutch their pearls, for lack of a better term.
There's a lot of pearl clutching in this industry.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of pearl clutching, this is your producer only voice. With I wanted to clarify the Sally Ride fact. So the NASA engineers actually asked her before her trip if 100 was the right number, and she said no, 100 is not the right number. Cut it in half. So that's what really happened.
Okay, so that's good. They didn't send her up with a few hundred, but they did have no idea how female bodies worked, which sounds on par for an old school NASA engineer.
But you know what? We're in the new school now, baby.
Exactly. It is 2025, and the doors are opening to a new generation of space missions and astronauts and the kinds of people that are going to space. And, you know, I don't think this is going to be that much of a taboo in a few years. And like I said, I think we'll see a point in the somewhat near future where an adult content creator pays to go up there and make some content. I think that's probably going to happen. I don't know who, I don't know when, but if they've got that kind of money and are interested in it, we'd love to have you on our show. And if you want to be a sponsor, check out 0g-SPOT.com. And I think we're right around the corner from like a new wave of interest in space based on like the humanities and the human experience.
Absolutely. So if you want to be a part of this conversation, you have to stick around and tune in for the next episode of 0g-SPOT, because we'll be here, we'll be having fun, we'll be bringing in the experts, and you don't want to miss it.
Like, subscribe, and share, because we're going to be coming back to you with some awesome content and some amazing people talking about sex and space and making space fun right around the corner. So see you then.
See you then.